Hey there, everybody. It's Dan, and welcome to another episode of Dan's Big Book Study. Yep, that's what we're going to talk about. You know what? I want to dive into a bit of a controversy today. I'm not going to wear these. And the reason why I want to dive into this controversy is because it's a mental thing. You know, how we think has a lot to do with our success and failure in the AA program. It tells us that we don't have a drinking problem, we actually have a thinking problem. Like the noggin's not exactly working like it's supposed to. And one of the words that really get people upset, and I found myself on social media going back and forth with somebody relative to the NA program, but in any case, it's the same idea. Do we actually recover? The word recovered, saying I'm a recovered alcoholic, seems to say I'm a cured alcoholic to some people. And for other people, it seems to just be, delusional or lacking humility in some way. Or maybe it's all that, I'm representing a cure and I don't have humility and all these different things. And then there's the idea that I'm in recovery, like perpetually in a state of need, that I'm constantly threatened by the drink, that in people, places, and things, I am at risk of relapse. Well, in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, we don't buy into any of that. And I mean none of it when I say we don't buy into any of that. And because any of that would fly in the face of what it says in our book. What our book says is that we recover. We recover all the way there. And the best way to frame that up is to think of it in terms of a painful injury. I like a broken arm, but you can say whatever. It doesn't matter. If I break my arm today, well, I go to the doctor or I go through treatment and I do things. And, with a little help from a doctor, like plays the sponsor role here, I get advice and a little bit of help, or maybe even a lot of help right at first, maybe even surgery. Let's say it's a really bad break. I'm hitting my bottom in my brakes. Like, I hope this never happens again, right? And they do the surgery and they fix it up and they put it in a cast. And lo and behold, I come along and I've got a healed arm sometime later. And I'm back to doing whatever I was doing before. Could be a year, could be 6 months, I don't know. And I've recovered, like literally recovered from my injury. I've recovered. Now, that doesn't mean I cannot break the arm again. It doesn't mean that I'm forever going to be protected from a broken arm. If I go and do the exact same thing, have the exact same set of events happen again, odds are good I'm going to break my arm again. And I think that that's just true. That's the idea of recovered. It's not that your bone in your arm became unbreakable. Interestingly, where bones heal, they're often stronger than they are around it. It's that particular insult, that particular episode, that time frame from injury to healed has finished. And because I took good care of my arm, because I did the things suggested to me by the doctor, I now am in a recovered state. And I have a set of knowledge. I have this thing called experience. I know what the doctor told me. I know what it was like. I felt the pain. I did all the stuff. So if someone else breaks their arm, I have an awful lot to share with them. Not just affirmations and go get them, you're going to be fine type of stuff. I can really empathize with them. They'll know I've broken my arm. I'll be able to describe their pain. Talk about the confusion, worried about surgery, all that stuff. And that's what we're talking about in the really no controversy between recovered and recovery. So here's another way to think of it. Another person contacted me this past week and was talking about Ayn Rand of Atlas Shrugged and the idea that egocentrism, which is completely based in fear, and that Ayn Rand thought that, this idea of being self-sacrificial or being helpful to others or trying to prepare yourself or live a life in service to others is a bad idea. And then if you look at her literature, of course, she thinks it's a bad idea. Look at how scary the world she is in is. It's a hostile world. It's a world full of fear. There's all sorts of deception going on. There's confusion. There's all the things that create uncertainty and a sense of powerlessness. And we're going to get back to that first story because we're going to talk about people, places, and things and the recovered state of mind. That's where we're going. So keep up with me. So in the story, Atlas Shrugged, there's a lot of deception. Who is Jonathan Galt, right? And we don't know, it's just, we don't know who it is. But there are people that have to bond together, even in her story. And there are people that require each other's help, even in her stories. So the position that egocentrism is better really doesn't hold up, even in her own books, even her own scary world. When I say that I'm in recovery after years, after working the steps, or that I'm driving myself to a holiday party just in case, wow. If there could be something more symbolic of someone who hasn't recovered, it would be stuff like that. Then I'm taking precautions other than simply working the program, simply going there with maybe a mini big book in hand, maybe a meditation book that I like, maybe a religious text that I like, maybe someone texting me and checking in on me, just ask somebody to do it. But I go planning on success versus preparing and setting myself up for failure. If your preparations to do typical things that regular people are doing, the old go to the party or don't go to the party idea that's in our big book, if you're setting yourself up to escape, you have already decided to fail. That's a fact. And you might not like that. A lot of people don't like that. But in our big book, the word recovered occurs 20 times, 16 in the big book and 4 in our 12 and 12. It starts off in the doctor's opinion where it says this man and over 100 others appear to have recovered. And if I'm a recovered alcoholic, just like that broken bone, just like the idea that I'm going into not a hostile world, one where I've given my control up to a higher power, one where the spiritual component of service to others trumps my own desires. It's more important than my own desires. Our big book goes on, and there is a solution. It says nearly all have recovered, meaning the guys that founded our program all had recovered by following the ideas, the principles, the concepts in our 12 steps. And there is a solution. It says further on, clear-cut directions are given showing how we recovered. So we follow these directions and we don't live in a hostile world. It says that too later on in A Vision for You. And we don't have to be so afraid. People, places, and things. And working with others, it says yes. Then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered, meaning as I talk to that newcomer, I've got to have something to offer them. And being in perpetual recovery forever is not something, it's terrible. It's a bad idea. Constantly in fear, constantly worried, trying to be humble. I'm going to be humble by self-deprecation. No, you're not going to self-deprecate. We stand up with everyone else. We live a typical life. Goes on to Two Wives and says he knows that thousands of men, much like himself, have recovered. That's why he has a responsibility to his family, is what it's talking about in that place. It's just an amazing idea that somehow there's like a group of people amongst the 12-step world that don't want to think they've recovered. Not sure I understand it. So as we go through it, as we go through thinking about it today, people, places, and things are not your threat. It is not your circumstances. It is your thinking. And if you think it's your circumstances, of course, you're projecting out in the world that it is, and it's just a darn excuse. Things like triggers, the reason why I call them excuses, because that's what they are for me. That's all they are for me. Am I going to deal with the trigger, or am I going to succumb to it? It's if I succumb to it, then it's got all those connotations that something bad happened out here and I've been triggered, I got those. Everybody has those. But that's not the truth. If I'm going to think of it as an excuse, then I'm going to say, no excuses, Dan. No excuses. None. It is time to work in the program to do what it says. And what it says to do, what it tells me to do, is not focus on me, 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 me. It says that nothing, absolutely nothing. First paragraph of working with others, absolutely nothing, meaning no other thing, not this thing, not that thing, not your thing, not my thing, not the other thing, not this book, not that guru, this yoga danda, nothing, meaning no other thing will ensure my sobriety, will protect me, will give me safety from my own alcoholic self. Key word, other than intense work with other alcoholics, intense work with other alcoholics. That's what does it. Yeah, I wish that wasn't true too. I wish I could have like a Kool-Aid. I wish I could go, I think Diet Coke does it, I wish it was maybe it's a Monster drink. It's got tar green in it, I don't know. I don't know. But it does appear to say in our literature that nothing, absolutely nothing, will ensure my sobriety more than intense work with other alcoholics. It works when other things don't. Because, and it says earlier, sometimes my past is the only real asset I have. It goes on and it says in step 12 of the 12 and 12, page 112, and if there are facts of life for the many alcoholics who have recovered in AA, they can become the facts of life for many more. You've got to have a convincing position. You want to help people? You want to stay sober? You want to be able to do it the AA way? Because if you're not doing this stuff, you're not in AA. You just go to AA meetings. It's fine. We welcome that. And maybe one day it'll click. They actually have a way. I'm going to do it, that way. And if you make that decision and get the guidance of a sponsor and you follow that guidance, odds are really good your life gets really better. And you don't have to live in that fear of people, places, and things. Oh my, people and places and things. Be afraid. Drive your own car. Make sure that you're ready to escape. There could be triggers there. That's a bunch of nonsense. Bring your big book with you in your telephone. Take a break if you get a craving. Call somebody, read a few sentences in your big book and say a prayer. And I'll bet you are absolutely fine. Unless, of course, you've already decided that you're going to drink. I mean, if you've already decided that, ain't nothing going to stop you if you're anything like me. Working with others, page 96, he often says that if he had continued to work on them, he might have deprived many others who have since recovered of their chance. So if I waste time on people that are like, I'm in recovery perpetually, I'm just wasting my time and they're wasting their time. They're going to have to find enough honesty and willingness and open-mindedness in order to be successful. There's nothing I can do about it. And I wouldn't want to do anything about it because I'm just robbing them of the very thing that they require. So why would I want to do anything about it? No arguing with them, none of that. Because we recovered. I am a recovered alcoholic. Yeah, I could drink again. If I go do the same things that I used to do and I throw away the program and I quit talking to people and working with others and I drop this idea that a service-based life is my best life, well then, yeah, for sure. I'll probably find myself drinking again. You hear that over and over again. It starts off, I quit going to meetings and then I quit calling my sponsor and then I quit working. I got busy, life came, I had a kid, I got a new job, I had to move, all these different things. There's just as many excuses, triggers, as there could be out there, right? As there are humans that have followed the idea of drinking again. And I don't have to do that. I just carry the program with me. It goes with me wherever I go. It says I can go to the most sordid place on earth. If I go to that drinking party, or I drive myself so I can escape. No. Go with friends. Go early. Help set it up. And be there, because two things I discovered, all of them. There's people at drinking parties, that aren't drinking. Occasionally, I run into another friend of Bill. Yeah. And then I'm setting an example, and people want to talk with me about it sometimes, about maybe why I'm not drinking. All right, let's finish it up. In step 1 on page 22, in the 12 steps and 12 traditions, it says it was a statistical fact that alcoholics almost never recovered on their own resources. The recovery state, the perpetual recovery, the idea that you're never going to get better, that you never get solid, Well, that's self-reliance because that is not what the program of AA says. It's just not. And it doesn't matter what you think about that. Go read the literature. It's not what it says. We are not in recovery other than if we have not done the steps. Now, here's something to contemplate too, that just because you go to AA meetings doesn't mean you're recovered. And just because you feel better doesn't mean you're recovered. And just because you've got something good going on in your life doesn't mean you're recovered. What means you're recovered is that you've done the things that the people that wrote these pieces of literature, those first 100,000, whatever it is, you've done the things that they said to do to the best of your ability, and you are following through on what they ask you to do. That is the recovered state, the ability to humble yourself, or humility gives me the ability to do the steps like they say in the directions. Consequently, I get the results that they promise. Humility gives me the ability. It's humility that gives me the ability. Not my opinion. I know. I wrestled with this for a while myself, actually. Humility gives me the ability to have that sense of being recovered. So let's finish it out like this. In AA, there are people that are not newcomers, but they are beginners. They may have been around for years, but they've never bothered to work the steps. Consequently, they don't have a lot to say that's really worthwhile. They're not in the solution. They're basically leeching energy out of the room for their own selfish benefit because they don't want to learn the things necessary to carry the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Our fifth tradition. Our primary purpose isn't to get our own butts in order, to save our own butts, to get our own relationships back, to get our own jobs, to get our own houses and all that. That it is not the primary purpose, though all those things will and do happen over and over and over and over again. But they happen not because you're focusing on those, because you're focusing on getting really, really good at our 12 suggested steps, really good at executing them in your own life for the benefit of the people that love you and care about you and surround you with that beautiful trust and love that, I don't know, I certainly didn't deserve. We might call it grace. And in a lot of cases, a lot of mercy too. Mercy means they're not punishing me. Maybe I deserve it. Maybe I do. Recovered. We are recovered when we practice the steps in all our affairs and achieve a particular state of spiritual fitness that represents a change in personality and behavior that is not only beneficial to ourselves, but visible to everyone else, that we have something of value to add to that newcomer's life, that we have a position to show them that they can achieve, that we have designed ourselves and our way of living around AA, not try to take AA into it. And by doing so, we achieve a state called recovered. Not cured, recovered. Anyway, something to think about. And just contemplate this for yourself, that if you're going to do AA, you're going to have to get into the idea that it's recovered, not in recovery. And if you want to achieve that, you got to stop making plans that defeat your own self. Things like the planning to take your own car, or worrying about relapse, or staying away from places because you don't think you're spiritually fit. That's a good idea. Make sure you're working on getting spiritually fit, because what it says in our book is then to dive into greater work with others, not go hide in the meeting and cower and share how scared you are. No, not that. Go to that meeting and be of service. Read something in the book and share it. Find the solution that would help you and use it to help someone else. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great time talking about this if you feel like it. And I really appreciate you listening. Have a good day.